Lesson 33, Major Rules of Algebra and Complex Fractions. We're going to talk about just a couple of the rules that we use in solving equations in algebra. Most of these you have heard before, but just a quick review of some of them. The first rule in solving an equation is the addition-subtraction rule for solving equations. That rule is that any number can be added or subtracted to both sides of the equation without changing the solution to the equation. Any number can be added or subtracted from both sides of an equation without changing the solution to the equation. All right, so we can have 3 plus 2 is equal to 4 plus 1. And we could add 6 to both sides of these equations, and it would not change the solution to the equation. It would change the fact that both of these things are equal. All right? Algebraically, if I have x plus 2 equals 6, I can subtract 2 from both sides of the equation, and it's not going to change the solution. In fact, that's how we would find the solution. All right, so that is the first rule of algebra. The next rule is very similar, okay? Any number can be, and we can replace added or subtracted with multiplied or divided by. All right, that is the second rule. Any number can be multiplied or divided by both sides of an equation without changing the solution to the equation. All right, same concept. All right. Similarly, the denominator and numerator of a fraction can be multiplied by any number without changing the value of the fraction. Any number, numerator or denominator, can be multiplied by the same number without changing the value of the fraction. This is how we find equivalent fractions, all right? 1/2. Both the numerator and the denominator could be multiplied by 4. That would give us 4/8, which is equal, got the same value as 1/2. Okay? We have solved equations where we have eliminated the denominator by multiplying through by a common denominator. However, if it's not an equation, if there's no equal sign, all we can do is find common denominators. All right, so when there is no equal sign present, find a common denominator. When no equal sign is present, find a common denominator. All right, and that takes us into solving complex fractions. Now, we have talked about complex fractions before, All right, remember a complex fraction is a fraction that contains one or more fractions. Okay? There's normally a fraction in the numerator and or a fraction in the denominator. All right, so a complex fraction is a fraction that contains one or more fractions. All right, we're going to do just one example together, and then I'm going to have you do one on your own. The example that we're going to work together is x over y plus 4 over xy all over a over y. Now, when we had done complex fractions before, we had divided the numerator by the denominator. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the numerator divided by the denominator, but before we can divide the numerator, we need to simplify this numerator, and we need to simplify it by adding. Okay, now keep in mind when we add fractions, we have to have a common denominator. Okay, so our common denominator is going to be xy. All right, the bottom fraction stays the same, 4 over xy. The top fraction becomes x squared. All right, so if I was to rewrite this problem, it would be x squared plus 4 over xy divided by a over y. Okay, this is where we take the numerator, x squared plus 4 over xy, and divide it by the denominator. Now remember, when we're dividing by the denominator, we're multiplying by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of a over y is y over a, and then we multiply. Now notice, y's can be canceled, and we multiply across. We get x squared plus 4 over ax. And that is simplifying that complex fraction. So the only difference from this one and the ones that we've done in the past is that you need to simplify the numerator by adding before you simplify the entire fraction. All right, this next one, we have a over x plus y plus m over y all over x over a plus m. All right, I want you to go ahead and try this one on your own. Remember, simplify the numerator first, and then divide by the denominator, cross cancel if you're able to. Go ahead and give this one a try, and we will check it when you come back into class.